Hello and welcome to Financial Intelligence. In this video, I want to talk about China's Lehman Brothers Evergrande. The story of Evergrande is a replay of what happened in the US during the financial crisis of 2008. Evergrande has become too big to fail by deploying reckless borrowing practices. Its executives reaped the benefits of its expansion when the company was growing and the sky was the limit. However, now that their pyramid scheme is failing, the powerful executives are passing on the hot potato to the Chinese taxpayers. Thousands of shareholders and creditors have lost a significant amount of their investments, and the situation is going to get even worse from now on. If you like the type of content that I provide on this channel, subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up, and also hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my future videos. Late Friday on December 3rd, 2021, Evergrande warned for the first time directly that it planned to work with offshore creditors on a debt restructuring plan. The embattled developer announced that it plans to actively engage with its creditors, acknowledging that its $300 billion of overseas and local liabilities have become unsustainable. Debt restructuring is a fancy finance term which essentially means that investors and creditors are going to lose their shirts. A company seeking to restructure its debt usually ends up renegotiating with its creditors to take a haircut, meaning that to agree to reduce the loan payments, extend the dates when the company's liabilities are due to be paid, or both. These steps are probably going to improve the company's chances of paying back at least some of its obligations and staying in business. Creditors understand that they would receive even less money should the company be forced into bankruptcy or liquidation. The effects on the market. Unfortunately for Evergrande creditors, the 30-day grace period on $82.5 million in interest payments from two loans ended on Monday, December 6, 2021. Since Evergrande failed to make those payments, its shares fell almost 20%, closing at their lowest level since 2010. Evergrande's bonds due in 2025 were quoted at less than 18 cents on the dollar, as shown in this chart. This shows that creditors are trying to get out as fast as they can. Evergrande sits at the epicenter of a broader crisis in Chinese property debt that was sparked by a government clampdown on excessive borrowing and real estate speculation. Chinese borrowers have defaulted on a record $10.2 billion of offshore bonds in 2021, with real estate firms making up to 36% of that total, according to data compiled by Bloomberg, that has pushed yields on an index of Chinese junk bonds, many of which come from property firms, to near records high of about 22%, as shown in this chart. What this means is that lenders are continuously asking for higher interest rates in order to lend money to Chinese real estate developers, as they rightfully consider lending to these companies super risky. The net result is that the Chinese developers are not able to refinance their upcoming debt obligations because borrowing costs are just too high, which is going to lead to even more defaults down the road. The Chinese government's response. The Chinese government has responded by easing the lending restrictions on the real estate sector. Regulators on Friday announced that they would expand mortgage support beyond first-time homebuyers, guide banks to provide loans to developers, and further open funding channel, including the asset-backed securities market. China's central bank released about $188 billion of liquidity into the financial system via a cut in the reserve requirement ratio for most banks. Note that the Chinese government is trying to solve the problem by creating even more debt. It is ironic to note that the excessive lending practices were the root cause of this financial crisis in the first place. Now the Chinese government is creating even more debt to solve a problem caused by debt. Bankers and politicians are buying time. Politicians and bankers are doing their best to downplay the risks to the financial markets. Chinese authorities have ramped up efforts to reassure markets that Evergrande's downfall can be contained. Similarly, bankers and analysts are trying to calm the markets down by issuing random statements. For example, economists at Citigroup stated that, and I quote here, "We see this as a positive development and the uncertainty associated with the debt resolution of the second largest developer in China, in other words, Evergrande, has been finally removed." As another example, analysts at China International Capital Corporation, one of the nation's largest investment banks, published a report claiming that while it will be important to monitor how Evergrande's restructuring progresses, the odds of renewed panic in Chinese credit markets are low. In my view, bankers are partially responsible for this mess because they lended huge sums of money to a corporation like Evergrande that did not have enough assets to be able to repay the loans it was applying for. I strongly believe that these bankers are probably just buying time to liquidate their own positions before the overextended Chinese real estate developers completely go bankrupt, like what happened to Lehman Brothers in 2008. In summary, I believe that China's Lehman Brothers, in other words Evergrande, is in trouble and the risk from its bankruptcy is likely to spread out to more companies within China and even to international markets. I hope that you liked this video. If you have any recommendation or suggestion, add them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel and also hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my future videos. Thank you and take care.